we've been doing a lot of yelling at each other. What happened to the days when we were boys and we just talked? Remember that time we were on the plane, 15 hours over to Japan? We were sitting beside each other talking about how great it would be if one of us could wrestle for the World Heavyweight Championship. And then we just both laughed because we didn't think it would ever happen. And now here we are, 4 times World Tag Team Champions. The longest reigning champions in the history of TNA wrestling. Travel the world 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I can't even count no more. Entertain millions of people, kicked a lot of butt, and drank a lot of beer.
I'm not going to come out here and pretend that beer money never existed. You know, we shared a lot of good times together. We had a lot of success. Beer Money was one of the greatest tag teams in the history of this business. Being a part of Beer Money was one of the proudest moments, not only in my career, but you see, there's another proud moment in my career and in my life that I remember. You may remember it as well. It was actually just last year when we put our tag team aspirations to the side and we put our names into the Bound for Glory series for an opportunity for a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship. And we did pretty good. We ended up in the Final Four. We wrestled in the semifinals. You wrestled Bully Ray. I wrestled Gunner. I beat Gunner, went on to the finals, and you lost to Bully Ray. And on that very night, I went on and faced Bully Ray and defeated the man that defeated you, which sent me to Bound for Glory, where I wrestled in the main event for the World Heavyweight Championship, where you just sat in the back, twiddled your thumbs, drank your beer, and did nothing. You remember that?
Did nothing, huh? No, actually, I remembered. I actually remembered doing something. I was actually sitting there, drinking beer, watching the monitor, and I remember you got beat. Remember this. Do you remember the next week after that, I beat the guy in record time that beat you?
Yeah, you know what? It's slowly coming back to me now. I vaguely remember that. I do, because your title reign was so short. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks later, I beat you for the world title. I remember it. I remember it like it was yesterday. Macon, Georgia, November the 3rd, 2011. I know you remember it. That was the night that I not only beat you for the World Heavyweight Championship, but I became the it factor of professional wrestling. And became the leader of the selfish generation. Remember that?
You know, I actually do remember that. I'm glad you brought that up because that's the night you hit me in the head with a beer bottle. That's the night that you destroyed the legacy of Beer Money. That's the night you destroyed a friendship.
Friendship! Cut the bull. The truth is, we were never friends. 10 years ago when we met, I hated you and you hated me. The only reason why Beer Money was so successful was because of our individual passion for this business. We hated each other. All those stories about traveling all over the world, drinking beer, having good times is a bunch of crap, and you know it. You despise me, and I despise you. You made a living, and you supported your family off of my talent. From day one, you've been jealous of me. You know it.
Jealous? What am I to be jealous of? Let me tell you something, Bobby Roode. Where I come from, family and friends still mean something. You don't sell your friends out for the love of money, and that's what you did because you're selfish. You did it for the money. I do this for the love of the sport, and I do this for all of these fans. Now my super kick leg is getting a little tired from going down this memory lane right here. So let's skip the history class. Because in 3 days, Bobby Roode, you and I, friends or not, we step in that cage and we beat the living out of each other. And we're going to do it in Nashville, Tennessee, my town, in front of my friends, in front of my family.
I don't give a damn about Nashville, Tennessee. I don't give a damn about your friends, and I sure as hell don't give two about your hillbilly wife and your redneck kids. You want this to get real? Let's get real. You walk around like some big shot, like you're some big-time star.
Let me tell you something. You're not going to need any damn luck. You're going to need a damn miracle to get your out of that cage.
You love to say that, don't you? You love to walk around saying sorry about your damn luck, don't you, huh? That's your favorite saying. I heard it a million times, and I'm sick of it. Because in 3 days, look at me, you son of a in 3 days, you're the one that's going to need all the luck you can get. And considering your history with your 2 dead brothers and your dead father, you have no luck.
If you smell what the Rock is cooking.
WBCB presents Pro Wrestling Weekly.
Tell me he didn't just say that.
Call in with a question or comment at 215-949-3232 or 888-922-2149.
The Tower of Power, too sweet to be sour, funky like a monkey, ooh yeah.
And now, here's your host of Pro Wrestling Weekly, Fearon.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
Really? Yeah!
We're a day and a half away from lockdown. Hello and welcome to Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Fearon Derry here with you, and do not adjust your sets. Yes, I did lead off with a TNA clip. I know we haven't talked about them. They've kind of gotten pushed off to the wayside and all of the WrestleMania hype and whatnot, but this is one of their bigger pay-per-views of the year. Lockdown tomorrow, and of course every match to be contested in a steel cage. And I know it seems like on an annual basis we question the logic of that, as it kind of cheapens and demeans some of the matches that really don't have any business being in a cage, like Devon and Robbie E for the TV title. That's going to be in a cage. They just started feuding about a month ago. I don't know, or at least at the last pay-per-view when Devon took the TV title from Robbie E. So I don't know. We can kick that around a little bit. I've got my predictions certain to go wrong for the Lockdown pay-per-view, but that exchange that you heard in the opening clip there between James Storm and Bobby Roode, it was great. And it was nice to see that kind of passion. Could have done without the mentioning of the dead relatives right at the end of it. It kind of felt like a cheap, tacky add-on, although I know they were trying to look for that final climactic escalate. As they were escalating, they were looking for that climactic thing that would lead to a throwdown. And I don't know, they could have gone in another direction, I think, but that's just me. I don't know. Otherwise, a great promo. Almost too little too late, though, as it seems like they've had 6 months, really, since Bound for Glory to put this all together, and it seems like they're just getting to the meat of things now. It's like they took the entire Beer Money history feud and just laid it out to you there in about a 10-minute overview, when they could have been going over this little by little for months, to say the least. But, you know, rushing through things in TNA, that's not exactly anything new. So we've got that to talk about, the Lockdown pay-per-view tomorrow. And then, of course, over on Raw, we have, Brock Lesnar speaking, which we'll talk a little bit more about. And it seemed like that was overshadowed by the Three Stooges. I kid you not. Of course, with the movie opening yesterday, WWE going to try to get any mainstream publicity that they can. They reached out and got the 3 stars of the new Three Stooges movie. Yes, in case you didn't know, of course, they're if you didn't see it Monday, yes, they're bringing back in some form Mo, Larry, and Curly some 80 years after they initially started to rise into prominence, including Will Sasso as Curly doing a Hulk Hogan impression and invariably getting chokeslammed by Kane in a segment that was probably entertaining to just one Vincent Kennedy McMahon, and that was about it. And maybe anyone under the age of 6. They might have been entertained by it too. Confused, thoroughly and highly confused, but entertained nonetheless. And one entertaining part of the live SmackDown from this past Tuesday, in case you missed it, it was also on replay last night, Piper's Pit with Daniel Bryan and AJ. That, when Roddy Piper doesn't go too far off the wall and just kind of keeps things slow and controlled and almost manipulative to a sense, those are some of his best Piper's Pits. And he certainly had a great one last night. We can certainly get your thoughts on that. We've got a pretty good amount of news and notes, including more Scott Steiner Twitter tirades. Easy for me to say. There's a tongue twister for you. Also, it looks like Kurt Angle not going to do those Olympic trials after all. And Scott Hall. Oh, we've got to talk about Scott Hall. He got himself into some trouble again. We'll lead off with that a little bit because I'm sure we're going to hear from more than a couple of people about that. Scott Hall, of course, a week ago yesterday, arrested after allegedly choking out his girlfriend in a drunken fit of rage, and that was, of course, according to the arrest report courtesy of TMZ. And according to that report, police were called over to Scott's Florida home over a domestic disturbance in progress around 5 o'clock last Friday evening. When they arrived, Scott's girlfriend, Lisa Howell, informed police that he had attacked her. And, according to Lisa, Scott had been drinking for days, and the two had gotten into some kind of an argument. She said she got into her car, and in a blind rage, Scott grabbed her by the throat and tried to pull her out of the driver's seat. According to the report, police confronted Hall, who appeared heavily intoxicated with an unknown white secretion flowing from both sides of his mouth, but denied ever getting violent. Police observed several signs of physical injury on Lisa, including red marks around her neck, so they placed Scott under arrest for domestic battery. And, according to the report, Scott was so drunk that the jail refused to book him, so the arresting officer had to drag him to a nearby hospital to get medical clearance. After the physicians gave the approval, Scott was brought back to the correctional facility where he was booked on the domestic violence charge. Girlfriend Lisa has refused to press charges, and it's been an interesting fallout from there. Meanwhile, Hall's lawyer spoke with TMZ, claiming that Hall was arrested against his girlfriend's wishes and that the girlfriend told police that there was no physical abuse and violence, and also noted that the girlfriend has refused to press charges, although that kind of contradicts the physical marks of physicality, as it were, that were actually on Lisa. And I think Kevin Nash probably best put this in perspective with something he tweeted this past Tuesday night. The only person at this point that can help Scott is Scott. Those of you that think otherwise are lost to what addiction is. Obviously, these have been issues going on with Scott Hall for a while, and it pains me almost to have to, it seems like every 6 months or so I'm coming up with some sort of a story regarding Scott Hall and a further fall from grace. I mean, 6 months ago we had the ESPN E60 special that kind of brought it to limelight, and since then you'd think essentially embarrassing himself on national sports television would be enough to kind of turn yourself around, but obviously I don't know. Obviously, Hall is still in a bad way, and I know I've said this before, and I feel like I'm almost on a record. But we hope that he can get past all these demons. Although it's looking more and more difficult as more things go on. Anyway, let's see if we can brighten things up a little bit. I got all this not so good news here. Let's hear what you've got to say. Let's kick things off. Well, here's some good news. A look at the local scene, courtesy of Ed from the Northeast. Ed, welcome to Pro Wrestling Weekly.
Good afternoon. We have a show, a doubleheader this afternoon in Rahway, New Jersey.
In Rahway? Okay. Doubleheader. Those are always fun.
Yeah, they have Eddie Kingston and Homicide with tag teaming against the Phillies Most Wanted for the tag belts. And Dan Maff versus Low-Key for the heavyweight title. That's at 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. bell time.
Okay, that's some good stuff.
And we, hello?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I thought I lost you.
No. We're here. We're here.
We got a Ring of Honor show coming up, I should have more information for that next week.
Okie dokie. And something else, I'm sure you might have already mentioned this in the past. I figure I'll throw it out there as well. I believe that Combat Zone Wrestling, CCW, they're going to be over in Voorhees tonight for their Best of the Best show, their annual tournament that they have going on there.
And pray for these firefighters that passed away.
Yes, absolutely. That's... I was looking for good news, and we were there, and then you brought that in. No, as much as I try to make light and have fun around here, whenever whenever some not so good news comes in, I mean, we try to give it the proper respect that it deserves. We figure we'll leave the horrific comedy and jokes and whatnot to the folks over at WWE, because we know they've got plenty of it. All right, thanks so much for the call, Ed. We're going to get rolling here. We've got... Actually, you know what? We're up against a break. We'll go ahead and take care of the break. That way we'll give Dan and Eric on the line a proper time. And then we've got room for you as well. 215-949-3232 or toll free at 888-922-2149. Those are the ways to get to us on the phones. You can also chime in on the Facebook feedback, WBCB Pro Wrestling Weekly. Go ahead and like us on Facebook. Up to about 60 members on there. Not too bad considering I finally figured out how to put this thing together some 8-9 months ago. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors' friends, tell whoever you want to. Let them know to like WBCB Pro Wrestling Weekly. And then, of course, you can go on, post on the wall, and I'll certainly note the Facebook feedback, and I'll read some of it over the air. At least some of the better things. Sorry there, Rat Boy. No, but... We've got some great stuff, of course, from Ross and Eric of the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, and also some great Today in Wrestling history moments and some not-so-great ones as well, as we had found out last week. Actually, a couple of days ago, I threw on there some early Monday Night Raw from back in '93, including that rarely heard of Friar Ferguson. I'm sure you remember him. But all that and more. We've also got the lockdown predictions starting to go wrong. Some more news and notes. Got to talk about Kurt Angle still. And also a Hall of Famer coming to the local area in early May. All that and more here on Pro Wrestling Weekly on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.